Great. Well, welcome everyone. We're now reconvening in open session. We've adjourned our closed session. And due to the meeting being teleconferenced, we will ask Angel to verify that we are in compliance and communicate effectively. Angel, will you go through the questions?
Sure. I would like to ask Trustee Phillips to respond to the following questions. Are you able to hear our proceedings on this end?
Maybe not. Or is she muted?
Can you hear us? Oh, no.
Awesome. Okay. Do you have a copy of the agenda for the meeting?
That's not.
Yeah, somebody, you computers there on.
You can do. Has the agenda been posted at your location?
Yes.
Is your location such that any member of the public can participate in the public portions of the teleconference?
Well,
Board members here, are you able to hear?
That's an echo. An echo.
no.
No.
Thank you. Because we're having a meeting with teleconferencing, all actions will be by roll call vote.
We'll just take a second and try to fix the teleconferencing echo issue. Our trustee E. Phillips is participating remotely tonight.
So, then I guess the echo, except when, so I would say we just need the output volume until Eve needs to speak.
Can she hear us if we do that?
Eve, can you still hear us? Give me a thumbs up.
No, but we can't
Can you
hear.
still hear us?
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, actually, the echo seems better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good.
This is good.
Somebody must have muted something.
Okay.
I think I did.
I don't have the Zoom on. All right. And before we move to the Pledge of Allegiance, I just want to thank Edie for her time with our district and wish you the best of luck in your continuing endeavors.
Thank you.
And we will miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
I don't know if everyone would like to stand. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I have nothing to report. We took no action in closed session today.
Okay.
So on to our public comment period. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, the public may comment on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. For this, items on the agenda, the public may comment at the time the board considers the agenda item. For items not on the agenda, the public may comment under item 5A, public comment. The Board of Trustees requests that individuals who would like to address the Board of Trustees on an item do so by filling out a request to address the OUSD School Board card and turning it into the superintendent prior to the agenda item. During a teleconference meeting, individuals who would like to address the Board of Trustees by webcast are asked to complete the online public comment request form. Members of the public will be enabled to speak their comment. Comments for an agenda item will be accepted until the start of the agenda item. Comments are limited to not more than 3 minutes. Groups are asked to limit their comments to a total of 5 minutes. The board shall limit the total time of public comment to 20 minutes. To comply with the Brown Act, the board may listen to comments from the speakers, but can neither discuss nor take action on the issues presented. So at this time, Superintendent Gloomy, do we have any public
We
comments?
have 2 in-person public comments and no online comments.
Okay, great. So first I have Kathy Barrett.
Good evening, and thank you for all of your hard work for our district. I'm Kathy Barrett, and I've lived here since 1975. Here this evening to talk about the nature area. since 2006. This very special place has been worked on by the Friends of the White Ranch Nature Area, known as FONA, who has raised over $100,000 in volunteer effort and funds to maintain the nature area and help support programs. At this point, the nature area has been padlocked for 15 months due to the storms of 2023, in which about 8 trees were felled and trails washed out and other hazards. In the meantime, since January, the district has allowed the Friends of White Ranch Nature Area and our volunteers under the direction of Reg Barrett and Taurus to work on the half-acre biodiversity garden. They cleared, weeds up to the roof and put in new beds and tidied up the defunct greenhouse and so forth. But they haven't been able to go out and fill the pond and clear the trails and work on the rest of the nature area, which is becoming overgrown. It's fire season. And as in all of Orinda, the nature area is also a risk. And so we're hoping that this $1.5 million grant that was secured by our Assembly member, Rebecca Barracan, from the state, will be accepted by you, the trustees, our elected officials, to care for this jewel of Orinda. We wonder what has been going on since October when it was first announced. Why are we discussing it in the last moments of the grant cycle? We and thousands of Orindans are worried that this $1.5 million that is badly needed in the nature area and would benefit Orinda citizens may expire if you don't vote to accept it. It's a mystery to many of us. We've come to your meetings, we've listened to your YouTube channel, and it doesn't make sense to us. And we're not alone. So we're hoping that you will step up to the plate now, vote to accept this money so that it doesn't go back to the state. Thank you very much for considering my request.
Now we have Mr. William Hudson.
Hello, I'm William Hudson. Thank you again for your time you put into this. I'm very glad to hear you're working on obtaining a $1.5 million grant to reopen the nature area. I'm optimistic that the general concerns expressed in the last meeting will be resolved when you take the advice of Mr. Friedman and say that the agreement is totally open. On the question of liability, to me, this says the district has the ability to not exceed its current liabilities. It can simply say, if we've got unfunded liabilities come up, we'll go back to the status quo ante, which is the district closed. We won't have any more liabilities than we have already. Maintenance of the current liability, I've got some questions about that. How much does it cost how much in the past does it cost to maintain the nature area? What's it going to cost to maintain it when it's closed? Those are costs you already have. If you accept the grant, would it make sense to do some preventive maintenance to prevent closing it down and reduce costs in the future? And can you accept volunteer labor, which is, believe me, I have a brother who cut down trees. Can you accept volunteer labor to address some of those costs? Mr. Friedman, an assembly member, also said there were no limitations on revenue. So that seems to be open, but there were some members that expressed the fear that if the nature is protected, it will somehow cut off funds in general because it will have been preserved and people won't get interested. So I hope that's true, but I'd love to know the specifics about who's going to come up with that money, what kind of conditions they're going to have, what it would take to get it, how long, and so forth. So to me, it's sort of like, I hope you're not thinking of denying the nature area to people in the hopes of winning the lottery, and if so, for how many years? If you don't take the grant, what are the plans for the nature area? We talked about Measure Fund 40 that will recover, that will make it safe, but that doesn't provide the funds that are necessary to run for the students. So if you're thinking about that, where's that extra money going to come from? We actually do it. And is turning down the grant worth the strain and put on the budget to do that? I hope you'll join me in looking what bright future the nature area would have if it was open and it's permanent and the community could participate. Would really be, again, a crown jewel for the city, for the community, for the students. And have you thought about the fundraising opportunities that are there if it's open, like after school club, bring it other school districts in which have in the past have expressed interest in coming and paying for it. So thank you very much, and I hope there's good news next week.
Thank you. Great. Is there any other public comment online or in person?
No, there is not.
Okay, great. We will continue on into our discussion items. And the first discussion item is boundary enrollment update.
Okay. All right. So we actually have Mr. Reynolds here from Schoolworks visiting back. I think the last time, were you in person last time? I don't know. Well, you were actually. Okay. So we actually contracted with Schoolworks, back in 2022 to do a demographic study and to examine the enrollment in the district. And our initial interest was not necessarily coming from, oh gosh, we're so impacted that we need to examine what are we going to do with the impact, but it was that the impact of the enrollment was not affecting our schools in a same way. So we contracted with Schoolworks, and Mr. Reynolds led the study at that time, and we did some minor adjustments, very minor adjustments in the area of Sleepy and Wagner Ranch boundary. And we are currently actually examining what those, boundary shifts will do. But we're living through those initial years. So the reason we contacted the company again is to see, because since that study, we actually have added additional years of implementation of universal TK. And we have actually seen continuous impact on the enrollment at Wagner Ranch, and not necessarily the same impact on enrollment at the other elementary schools. So when we spoke, we said, all right, let's see it again. So what does that look like? What does the future hold with regards to our enrollment now that we have actually this new law of universal TK? What does it look like in the future years? Because we can't continue adding portables at Wagner, and while we have space at other school sites, is this an ongoing problem? Is it a couple-year problem? And so on. So that's why Mr. Reynolds here to go through his study and let us know what they have found and then see what we want to do with that information. So thank you for being here. I'll go ahead and do the presentation, right? I think I actually opened it already. Right? Okay. And you just let me know.
Yeah, so let's go to the next page. Again, good evening. We're here to update you on our analysis of your enrollment patterns and show you some numbers in terms of by school, how everything is projected to look. So we do all this in a computerized mapping system. So this is just a quick shot that shows you all the red dots where the current distribution of students is for this school year we're just wrapping up.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Where is Wilder on this map? The Wilder development?
Is that
I do not
right?
show that on this map.
There's a couple of red dots over.
But it should be a lot.
Should be
of red
more,
dots.
I know.
Yeah. I'm concerned that the Wilder development is not on this map.
That was the newest development area.
Right,
Yes.
that's off the Highway 24. Not contiguous to downtown Orinda.
Right, I believe all the newest was right down this area.
So right here, maybe?
All these red dots down.
Yes,
Yeah, because there's an exit up the freeway.
that's what I was thinking. I think that's
here.
that right here.
Yeah. Okay, so the red line is the freeway, correct?
Yes.
And so that little light line is the exit, and those red dots are Wilder, and that backs up to Braga Way there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was concerned that they be there.
All right, so when we do our analysis, there's several different factors we look at. So our next slide, again, is showing the TK enrollment patterns. And so the blue is our historic information. So back in the day, we originally had the program, it was 3 months of students that were eligible out of the 12 months. So it's basically
Right.
1/4 the size of
Right.
your regular kindergarten class. This year, we were up to 7 months eligible. Next year,
Will be full. All of them. It will be a
It
full
was
year.
9 months.
Yes, 9 months. So next year will be full year.
right, in 2025.
Correct. Yes, yes.
So we have 2 more years. So you can see the yellows are projected numbers. And we also are looking at the number of births with that blue line there. So we expect a small increase this next year because of how we have fewer births. But then the year after, once it becomes all 4-year-olds, we expect it to be just short of 200 students. And that's going to be one of the larger numbers in the class. So probably the average size will end up being around 170 to 175. Again, the births do fluctuate around, but that's just sort of our average projection. Then the next slide shows the same type of information for our kindergarten classes. And here we can see our blue is our historic enrollment. And those numbers, again, you can see it fluctuate from year to year. And our projections in yellow are also fluctuating quite a bit. But we're averaging about 250 students. But again, there's going to be some years where the class is larger and some where it's smaller. And the next thing we take a look at to really illustrate what happens over time with your student population. This is showing in the green bars our current enrollment by grade level for this year we're just wrapping up. And so you can see we have a pretty average, consistent enrollment in each grade, with, of course, with the exception our kindergarten and first grade classes are smaller. Now we're comparing that to the blue line. That's how many students were in that class when it started kindergarten. And so you can see for most of those grades, our current enrollment is a little bit larger than we started kindergarten with. So we do see a slight increase over time. So then the next page shows our overall results. So again, here we're showing 10 years historic data and 6 years into the future. We've color coded it with the orange and green areas. Orange is our elementary grades and green is middle school grades. So we can see we are anticipating the enrollment to increase over the next 3 or 4 years. And we're anticipating a slight drop in years 5 and 6. Again, that's just due to the fact that we have those 2 smaller classes in our kindergarten and first grade, and then 2 smaller classes in our incoming kindergarten in the next 4 years that were smaller than the rest. So again, as those small ones work through the system and we graduate some larger ones, graduate some smaller ones, it just creates a little bit of fluctuation in enrollment. But overall, we're up the next couple of years until we sort of reach an average as, again, the TK becomes a full grade. So again, that's looking at the district numbers as a total. Next, our full report has a lot more detailed information. This page just shows you a sample of, right, we focus on each school. We show the red dots for students that attend the school for the boundary they live in. We have blue dots saying, hey, I live in that boundary, but I attend a different school in the district. And then you'll see yellow dots for students that are transferring in. And so this picture here is actually showing a Wagner Ranch. And so we can see some of those yellow dots in the Sleepy Hollow area. And again, some of those were in that boundary change area that are still grandfathered in. So our next several pages are going to show our enrollment projections for each of the individual schools. So we start here with Del Rey. Again, they've had a pretty stable enrollment and just a slight increase. And again, they're going to increase the next 2 years as TK becomes a full grade. But after that, they're relatively stable. Actually, you see a slight drop. The next school is Glorieta. Again, we're really looking at the red line. That's our enrollment numbers. When you see the blue line on here, that's how many students live in their boundary. And of course, our black line shows our classroom capacity. So at Glorieta, again, we've been pretty stable over the last 4 years. We are going to be pretty stable the next 2 years, but overall, we do see a drop of about 50 students when we look at our 6-year projection compared to where we're at today. So again, just not much per year, but again, it just dropped about 50 students. Next, we look at Sleepy Hollow. And here we saw an increase this year compared to last year because of the boundary change. And when we anticipate that to continue to increase slightly. And so they're going to be pretty stable, well within their capacity. And so that adjustment for Sleepy Hollow has helped create a good size enrollment in comparison to their capacity. Next, we look at Wagner Ranch.
They're over their capacity.
They've had a significant increase over the last 4 years. When you look at that blue line, the students that live in their boundary, it's continuing to be above their capacity. When we look at the actual enrollment, because again, there's several students that are in their boundary that are attending the other schools. We do end up about 25 students over capacity in 3 years. Again, a lot of that's as the TK becomes a full grade. And so it's having a bit of a challenging impact there at Wagner Ranch. But then after that, again, it's relatively stable once it reaches about 520 or so. And then, of course, we look at the Orinda Intermediate School. Here we're seeing relatively stable. We see a slight bubble at 4 years out in 2027. But pretty stable. Then our next slide just illustrates our school enrollments this current school year in red compared with students living in the boundary, which are shown in blue. And so it just helps us understand the difference in our school sizes. And then next is our utilization chart. Here's where we really try to understand how do things look 6 years from now. And I do have highlighted in orange right there the fact that we are going to be a little overcrowded at Wagner Ranch. And then we have in yellow at Glorietta saying, hey, we're only about 78% of our capacity. So we have a little bit of space available.
And if I can just interject for a second, that is actually including already an addition of a portable that we only put in there for a 3-year temporary, with the hope that we would remove it.
That's the one on
At
the
Wagner,
blacktop.
you mean?
At Wagner, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Wagner. And actually we have 2 portables on there, but one that we just put in for this school year to alleviate the pain. They're actually, the impact is worse because it is not our hope to keep that there permanently.
Right.
So the next slide shows us the boundary change that was made previously.
Right,
So in the green area highlighted with the white boundary,
that's new.
that was the area that we added to Sleepy Hollow that used to be assigned to Wagner Ranch. And so when I analyzed the students, again, this is from October of this school year, so towards the beginning of the school year, there were 24 students living in that area that were enrolled in Sleepy Hollow and 34 that were still attending Wagner Ranch. So again, over time,
That will switch.
that should balance out to where most of the students are going to Sleepy Hollow, except for those that ask for a
Transfer.
transfer. So again, that will help over time, but again, it's a challenge in the meantime.
So the other area that jumps out to me is that area on the south side of Highway 24 that you get to by going past Alma Music, the one I'm talking about, where you go up.
Brookwood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then kind of in back, there's Barbara Lane. There, this whole little group of
That's on the next slide.
Is it? That area's on the next slide.
No.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
area we talked about when we did
Yeah,
this last.
okay, good, yeah.
Let's go to the.
You want to go to that? Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. That jumps out as
Yeah.
possible movement, yeah.
So if the numbers hold true with the way we're currently seeing the projections, right, and you want to create some relief at Wagner, I highlighted two areas. One I labeled A,
Mhm.
and the other I labeled B.
And what's in A? It's hard for me to tell. Is that the Pulte development right here?
Yeah, I think
think so.
it's.
Yeah, it
Behind
is.
us, kind of?
It's essentially right here.
So you left Orinda Woods, basically going to Wagner.
Yeah.
But you moved the Pulte to possibly go to Glorieta.
Mhm.
Right, and since we saw that decline happening at Gloria,
Mhm.
Area A has 23 students
Mhm.
that are at Wagner Ranch.
Mhm,
And whereas Area B has 54 students.
mhm.
So if either one of those
Mhm.
you would like to
Think about
send
it.
to Glorieta, then I think we have another year or so before we want to probably make a final decision on that. So we want to see how the enrollment comes in this year
Mhm.
and see if the trends and the attendance patterns are still in the same position they were this school year.
Mhm.
But those are two areas that I thought would be again, there's some areas we studied in our previous boundary study. But we thought that this adjustment with Sleepy Hollow might be enough. And it's like that the enrollment's still holding strong. And whereas again, right, many other areas throughout the Bay Area are seeing pretty good declines.
I think part of that is possibly that enrollment with Wilder
young.
is, that's going to Wagner is where majority of the newer families are
Right,
coming
it's
in.
young, it's young
So
families.
then you have the TK, K
Sure.
parents coming in, and that's where they're,
Do we know how many are in Wagner?
we just added a whole new TK there and the K held.
Right, but how many,
From Wilder.
Do we know how many
Wilder,
students from
students are
Wilder?
represented if you were to move?
Oh, the whole Wilder?
Wilder.
I don't know. That's this entire
That's a
area.
pretty significant.
Yeah.
I can calculate it and email it to you.
Okay,
Could
that'd be
also
great.
make a really long drive for those folks, right? Because you'd have to come on the freeway and then go down.
Well, they're making a long drive regardless, so I'm not suggesting we do
No,
that. I
no,
just
but
would be,
Just information.
it'd be good information to have if you're looking at moving any students.
Yeah, and again, the 23 or the 54 that we looked at in this slide would easily fit within the capacity.
Right, Area B looks to be like.
Area B is much more accessible to Glorieta. than Area A.
It wouldn't really be a much different in time and distance drive for
Yeah,
families.
distance wise, I think it's actually.
Actually closer and not going across the freeway.
Closer to Glorieta than Wagner.
Mhm. Okay, so you're suggesting, I'm sorry, I just want to capture this. We'll get the number of the Wilder students just to have the information, but really waiting through the next year, or at least initial start of the year to see where the enrollment holds.
Yeah, I'll do a quick follow-up with you in
Okay.
October when the new enrollment numbers have settled down.
Oh, for the seabeds, yeah.
And I think you would need to have this before any registration for the following school
Yes.
year. If there's
Right,
going to be
so
any.
then, because it took about a year for us to inform the families and what's going on, for them to understand, and it really is, I mean, just looking at that, even the small area between Sleepy Hollow and Wagner Ranch, I mean, it's almost like a 3-4 year process
It
because of the
is.
grandfathering in of the siblings, of how long it takes for that.
That's right.
So I think last year we got ahead, like a year out, in advance to, hey, we're gonna be moving this
Right.
area, no worries about the siblings, and so on. So it would be checking in really at the start of October. Yeah,
They're still
yeah,
holding with the same patterns. And I'd say you probably want to consider an action item in November.
okay, yeah, I think that's what we did last time too, okay.
My recollection,
Okay.
My recollection is that we did hear from some residents in this area B that they were unhappy with the idea of any
Yes.
potential. So if it is something that we are going to be considering, I think the sooner we get ahead of that conversation,
The better.
the better.
I agree. People might be.
I remember that being an area that was unhappy with it.
Okay, all right, so we can, yeah. So really, okay, got it. I have it, okay. We can always work on the timeline and what that
Right,
looks
Of
like.
course, but just in terms of
I think we
communication.
have to consider something because of the,
Yeah. Yes, because if those families are going to a school in Wagner and they're impacted there and they're in portables or there's empty classrooms, that's also an impact.
Yeah, right.
Okay, sorry,
great.
That's what we had to share with you.
Okay.
If any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, and again, we're back at the office, anything comes up in the next few months over the summer, I'm here to help you out.
Great.
yeah, other comments or questions or Eve? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, Eve. I just wanted to ask, are all of the lots at Wilder now built out for the most part? Like, is there still increased building at Wilder, or is it now into second, resales of homes? And so it's a
Still a
more
few
normal.
under-
There's still building happening. I mean, when we were
Is there?
there
I don't
last.
know, I haven't been
Yes,
over there like.
Yeah.
there's still construction. Yeah,
There's very little.
yes,
Very little.
but there is visible construction, but not like.
I think there's very few undeveloped lots there.
Yes.
Okay, so the majority of the development
Yeah.
built at this point.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And we can look at that too from the city.
Curious, Deb, you've done demographic study for the high school district as well?
That's a good question.
As your
Mr. Chair.
Akalani's Union High School
Union High School
District.
District?
They haven't done anything recently. I just monitor it and since
Yeah,
I've
I'm
been there.
curious in terms of,
It's because they have such clear feeders. It's very easy to see who's going
they
where.
do, but they have some weird zoning relating to Campo and, so.
They do, but it's open enrollment also, except for Las Lomas, to allow who goes where. I do know that I think there's going to be some future conversations just about such a decline in enrollment at Miramani.
Well, that's part of why I was wondering also. just
Programming.
about ROAS students feeding in as well. I think they would be interested to see what our numbers are.
And we'll share that, yeah.
Definitely reach out to them and see if they're interested.
You can look at that.
Nobody-
Orinda send you.
They love that. Eve, did
I'll
you
do
have any
that.
questions you wanted to ask?
No, I think you all covered it. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Okay, great. This is just a discussion item, so looks like we'll be bringing this back in the October timeframe to talk about again after we have our CBEDs and know how many kids are actually sitting in our classrooms.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much for
Thank you
coming.
so much.
tonight. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Great. And our next discussion item is the deferred maintenance update.
Okay, oops.
There we go.
Eve, are you seeing my deferred maintenance? Or still the board agenda?
Still the board agenda.
Just 1 second, please. It just got. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Sorry, here it is. Can't see her. All right, go.
We can go to the next slide. Yeah, so the deferred maintenance plan was just designed to address the school district's ability to plan for major repair and replacement of existing school building components to ensure safe buildings. We are presenting a plan to ensure responsible maintenance of facilities and allocation of fiscal resources. The deferred maintenance plan does not include projects that are to be funded by bond measures E&I. However, the two plans complement each other. The plan will be adjusted as projects are identified that would overlap with the scope that is covered in E&I projects.
So the plan development is based on facility needs, based on staff input and building evaluation. Project timeline is based on safety, long-term effects, staff availability, and construction. The budget is developed based on cost estimates. Accountability of the staff, we will be presenting a deferred maintenance of progress quarterly. So this is a recap of projects that we completed in the 2022-2023 school years. We did pretty well. If you look at Glorietta, the damaged siding and all that, the original estimate was 40, but opening that up, there was all the dry rot repair. So that was quite a bit more. When we were doing that work, if you look down to the barrel roof, when we got actually up on that roof, this was a project that was originally, we thought we could wait till 2025 to do. We got up, decided it need to get done. So we found that we could get up and recoat the barrel roof and extend the life out of it. The original estimate was 99,000. We were able to get that work done for 49,800. So quite a bit of savings there, made up some of the ground that we lost on the dry rot repair. OIS, the weather damaged trim around the equipment wells, and looking at the scope of the windows that we're going to be replacing as part of the mod. It looks like a lot of that will overlap, so we're holding off on that to see if a lot of that work would be overlapping into the bond money. The floors that Del Rey, Glorietta, the gym floors, OIS, and Wagner Ranch. Originally, we had these slated, our cost estimate was $65,292. And looking at alternatives, we added the walk-off mats. A good portion of this repair was water damage at the Del Rey gym floor, where we thought we were going to have to do a lot of replacement. I brought in a couple people in the field. They concurred that if we let it dry out, it would probably suck back in. We were patient, did that, made sure that we kept the building conditioned, and we were able to get in, reevaluate, which allowed us to resurface the floors, coat them, and again, extend the life. So we saved quite a bit of money there. We did all these buildings for 16,000 as opposed to the original 65. So we're always looking for cost savings and thinking outside the box to what we can do to be responsible and still get as much done. So the next slide are deferred maintenance projects that we had proposed for 2023, 2024. Del Rey, the exterior doors, we had rooms 2 and 4. Those are going to be replaced as part of the bond. So those plans have been approved. So I went through and looked at what we had on our deferred maintenance and what might overlap. I identified these, so we're taking those out of the deferred. We have 8,448 square feet of failing blacktop. The parent club is looking to possibly do some work around the main playground where this work would overlap. So we're going to hold off and see what we need to do there. If it doesn't overlap and it becomes a safety issue, we'll have to try and find the money and get this done under deferred maintenance. There's quite a bit of dry rot at Del Rey. The portables 17, 19, and 21 are in really bad shape. I mean, they've been there a long time. They're next to the garden area. There's a lot of trees. They have not been maintained. Portable 21 is having a real problem with rodent issues. The siding's so bad, they're just up into the wall and getting into the ceiling. So we're getting to a point there where we have to get something done. I've got an estimate of $60,000 for that, and I think it'll take every bit of that.
Is that for repair or to replace the whole portable?
Well, the building's at the end of its life. Trying to replace it would be more money than we have. So I've worked with a couple.
Don't we lease the portables? I don't know.
These we own.
These are all
When
old.
we own.
These are
If we
old. These are
replaced
all
it,
old.
we would replace an asset we own with a lease,
A
I
lease,
assume.
correct.
Yeah, these three are also kind of landlocked behind the Gen 7s. So if we were to try and do
Get to
anything, it would be major work to bring cranes and get in and out. So if we had the money, obviously we'd take all the siding off, replace it. We don't. So I've walked with a couple contractors to try and define what siding needs to get replaced. There's some belly bands, things like that, some trim. So we've kind of customized the scope, if you will, for all three of these to help with the rodent issues. We're planning on putting a 1/4-inch mesh integral to it so they can't dig under it. A nice little perimeter around it we know how they're getting in. It's just trying to get that prevented. Each building kind of has a unique amount of scope of work. And I've got a little bit of padding in there knowing that once we pull siding off, we may need more. So I've got a little bit of elbow room knowing that there will be unforeseen. Once it's repaired, we'll have to bring a company in to clean up above the ceiling where we've had rodent issues, make sure it's all disinfected and safe and all that. So that'll be a specialized company coming in to do that. But I don't want to do that work until
Get them out of there.
I know we've got the rodent repair. Glorietta, the plaster that was falling down, the abatement's been completed on that. It's been completed for a while. The abatement removal is completed. It's only 14,000. So we did really well on that. It wasn't as extensive that as we had feared. So rather than go back with plaster on the parts that we've removed, we purposely had it removed as clean as possible. So we're going to be going back with paneling under there, and we'll have a nice transition between the existing plaster and what we're repairing. And that's one of our in-house projects. We'll do that with our maintenance crew rather than contract that out. That's something that's very manageable.
50,000 number then is not accurate anymore for that?
We're going to be much less than that. Yeah. These are what we had originally budgeted here. Glorietta, there's some failed concrete as well. We're looking to see what we can do there. It'll probably be pretty close to that budget. I'm finding that the asphalt has really gone up. Wagner Ranch, the Kinder building has quite a lot of bad siding there. It's not as extensive as the Del Rey, and that's why we want to get it done now. It's delaminating in some areas. So on the Kinder building, it would be the west-facing wall and the south-facing wall. And again, rather than peel it all off and getting it done, I've worked with a couple of contractors to try and define the scope, and I'm getting pricing on that. So I think I'll be pretty close to my budget on that. We want to get that work done before, kicking the can down the road. It would only compound the problem. Glorietta, Sleepy Hollow, Wagner Ranch, the soft service on the playgrounds are in some pretty poor shape. Rather than go and replace them all, I'm getting quotes. And in fact, I've got a quote, so I was able to update this. This budget is the quote to do all of these patching, repairing, sealing them, and then coating them to extend the life. So we would get them all safe. I mean, some of them they're tripping hazards. So in my mind, it's
Those were
definitely.
installed,
By the parents' clubs.
yeah, but since we've been on the board, right?
Right.
Or is it prior to our?
No, I think they were. I mean,
Yeah.
remember when they redid that playground? Some of these
Yeah,
playgrounds.
I'm
are
just trying to
relatively new.
understand the lifetime of that
Well,
surface.
When you do the soft surface, there's maintenance supposed to be done on it that I don't believe is done.
Okay.
You're supposed to be, for example, if you look at Wagner Ranch, the one closest to the baseball field, there's a walking path there with gravel. And I was there again today and there's just big chunks of gravel the kids are playing.
Oh,
And then
that's
they're
a
running and
newer-
just,
that's
you
a
know,
newer playground.
digging in. So it's a real chore for the custodian every morning to go out and sweep this thing off. It's an added thing that he's done. So part of this,
Sorry, this follow-up question to that, is it an annual maintenance for those soft?
there should be annual maintenance on it, yeah.
What does that look like? Just like re-spraying or something, or?
It's a coating.
Coating, that-
It's a cleaning, it's a cleaning and a coating
For that?
job to keep it going.
So that's really something that we should have in our budget as well.
That's correct. So that coating is included in this estimate for all these.
Yeah.
So the repair, cleaning, coating, and that'll be our baseline for moving forward to kind of extend the life out of.
And I think a lot of those soft areas were originally paid for by parents' clubs.
Right, but I mean, just
think it was
with
a
all the
mix.
projects, they don't pay for the maintenance.
The annual maintenance.
Mhm. It's a one-time expense.
So that's what we're hoping to get done this summer, before the start of school.
Can I make a comment on, so the original budget, as you can see the comments on, that Stuart has put in there are just under 700,000. He has reduced it in how much we could actually possibly able to do over the summer with all the other projects going on to about 350,000 or just over, right?
Yeah, one of the things
But we have $43,000 in our in our deferred maintenance budget, which is far short of the
That's what I was
352.
gonna ask, right?
So we continue to bring a plan, which we have established as our goal to bring a deferred maintenance plan. But we continue to not have
Money to do
the funding to do so. So actually what we are proposing this evening is that we utilize the Fund 40 funds to fund the projects that Stuart has proposed in this slide and in this presentation of this estimated amount of 353,000. Our concern, as he has mentioned, is versus some of the safety issues, but also some of it is that not fixing the siding or not fixing the dry rot, it just creates long-term bigger issues that just continue to cost more. So when then there's an emergency due to a structural issue, we then have to dip into Fund 40 anyway, but it costs us more. So as you will see in Mika's presentation on the budget, we have $3 million in Fund 40. That is not a fund that's replenishable. It is important to keep that in mind. It is a fund that is a one-time fund that I believe used to be in
12 million.
12 million before my time. It is down to 3. The board has conceptually, the prior board agreed that it's on emergency repairs. But we just feel that if we don't start doing some of these bigger safety repairs or structural repairs, that we are just making our emergency repairs more
More
costly.
And to clarify, once that money is gone, it's gone.
It's gone. There's no, that money, Fund 40 is as a result of the sale of the property. And, which is right behind us, the Pulte Farm.
Yes.
And it can only be used on facility projects. When you sell in a district, public school district sells a property, that fund can be in a restricted fund. It can only be used on facility projects. You can't like use it for class size reduction or something. That's part of it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was going to say one of the projects that I skipped over, I missed was the gutters around the admin building
Okay.
at Wagner Ranch. You can see daylight. You can stand there and see daylight through the gutters. So I just don't want another Glorietta NPR situation at Wagner. So, and I'm hopeful I'll be under this estimate.
Right.
Again, I'm talking to as many people to define the scope as tight as I can to get down and look into the future.
I know you're not done with the presentation yet, but something that's not on here because it's not a maintenance project, but it is a maintenance of one of our property items. And I know we just lost a couple of our friends out of the public here, but is that we would like to also propose that we utilize some of this fund for at least the start of reopening of the nature area. We had talked about that in the last meeting. The board was conceptually in agreement. We're not proposing right now an RFP or a bid of $400,000 or anything like that, but at least the arborist to come on to mark up the tree so that we can open up the bid, or possibly considering the opening up the next area of the nature where the outdoor ed used to be, so that we can start the next phase. We did just do some fire abatement right over the summer, over the weekend, in the area closer to the school. So if the board is agreeable to that, then really this is not an action item, this is for discussion. But the actions would be as we bring in contracts. So each one of those would still be discussed by the board. But we would just wanted to, once again, conceptually here, are you in agreement with kind of as Stuart brings these in? Because if you are, I think he's ready to bring in all sorts of contracts for the facilities next board meeting.
Mhm.
And if so, then we would also probably try and bring our arborist contract as well for the nature area at the next board meeting as well, so that we can get that process going.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay.
I am as well. I mean, I think we have to be careful because this money is not replenishable and we don't want to be in a situation where we don't have any money when we do have a big emergency. But I think making decisions to take precautions now so that we don't have big emergencies later makes sense. Initial deferred maintenance project suggested, and it seems like at least one, that first one isn't part of this, so the number might be slightly lower.
And the second one.
Yeah,
But something new could come up.
so, and probably will.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a priority to get work done so that we can at least have some programming in the nature area
Yes,
this
okay.
fall. And so if we can get that going over the summer, that would make the most sense.
Mhm.
And that's the only funds we have to possibly start that.
Yeah,
Once
okay.
we can
Okay.
partner with the Friends of the Nature area to help us with some of that.
Okay,
I'm in agreement as well as mentioned last board meeting, so, yeah.
great.
So we don't
Yeah,
have,
sorry.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I think, Stuart, you've been really prudent in identifying areas that are going to become a bigger problem, are not exactly glamorous projects, but need to get done.
Mhm.
So I'm in agreement with working on those so that we don't end up with a bigger problem. We've already had that, like you said, with leaking roofs and Glorietta. That's not out of the question for some of these. And then same for the Wagner Ranch area. Beginning that process makes sense, similar to everybody here with proceeding with caution, I would say, with care.
Mhm.
Eve, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, sorry, it's a little hard to hear what the other trustees are saying, so apologies, I was trying to listen closely. So if I ask a question that's been answered, I apologize, but can you remind us of what the total amount in Fund 40 is now? Because I guess I'm trying to get an understanding.
Just over 3 million, Eve.
Over 3 million,
Yes.
so, but we're not asking, or you're not suggesting that we, like the full, 5-year deferred maintenance plan is
No.
obviously
No,
much more, looking at it on slides, it's like $6 million. So you're just, from the perspective of this project, this is just much more about the 362
Yes,
thousand that's you're showing on this slide.
yes. And they would still come as individual contracts for approval. So we're asking for, again,
It'll be less than.
consensus around this slide that is being shared right now. And that's one, and the other is the nature conversation. But knowing that each individual one of those items would come in as an action item.
And then for the nature area, I think, at least for I feel like it maybe brought up as a possibility before, was again not paying for all the things that could possibly be done there, which is probably out of the scope of this, but to get things back opened up.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't quite capture what Nancy was saying, but I think it would be definitely support we're looking into these funds for at least some of that purpose, again, just to kind of get the ball rolling on that front, but
Yes. I think that's the sentiment that the other board members shared as well. Okay,
thank you. Great.
okay. Okay,
great. I mean, we see this $6 million of other deferred maintenance, and I think we're just gonna have to take it year by year, sort of most necessary by most necessary. Obviously, we don't have $6 million.
It's a challenge. It's just a constant challenge, I guess, is the best way to put it, because I go through my list and I'm happy when I can take something off of it, and then other things are going back on it, and then trying to reprioritize all the time, because you'll have something over here that you thought you had more time. It'll move up. Well, what can I ship back and try and buy another year? It's a challenge.
I, at least as one board member, appreciate that you are putting the time into going through that each year thoughtfully, because that hasn't historically been the case here. And so, as much as we can get ahead of some of these
Trying to get as much done as we
emergencies.
can with
Yes.
limited resources.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
Sure, thank you. So this is a breakdown of basically the kind of type of projects that are the bulk. You can see the asphalt and concrete, and the roofing are the big items here that will be coming up in the future. General repair are, again, siding, things like that, gutters, things like that. So the next slide, we have it broken down by school. We try to spread it out where we can. It's tough because the needs are not the same at all schools, but we try to get the balance the best we can. And this is how we're trying to spread it out over the schools.
What is coming up at OAS that's so expensive?
Sorry?
OAS line,
It's the biggest.
it's the largest. What's in there?
Mostly roofing.
Oh yeah, you've mentioned that before.
Mostly roofing, OIS, yeah. Okay, so facility projects at 3% of the district expenses are dedicated to routine restricted maintenance. This budget is currently not sufficient for the needs of the routine needs of our facilities repairs. We talked about Fund 40. Facility fund is utilized for emergency repairs. We've experienced an increased number of these emergency repairs because our buildings are getting sold. Developer fees may be used for restricted expenditures to accommodate increased enrollments. So anytime that we have anything that we can possibly utilize that, we do. Same thing with health and safety. If it's a health and safety issue, we're always looking to see the best way to what funds to go where. So the next steps, deferred maintenance projects 2024, 2025 through 2027, 2028. We've identified and continue to identify the need and plan to address the projects. However, ongoing funding for the work is a challenge. There is no established state source of revenue for deferred maintenance work. We will continue to work with the board facilities subcommittee and the business department to determine an ongoing funding source for the projects. We've been exploring grant options, both state and private, to fund the ongoing facility needs.
I will say that there is there will be a bond, facilities bond on a November ballot. Not from us, the statewide bond. There's still in disagreement which of the two bonds will be on, because there's going to be only one, and there's nobody still running the bond and so on, but never has a facility bond failed if it's a K-14. So we are hopeful that would actually be supportive. And the way it's written, the one that's for K-14, we actually could see some funding for facilities project. And it's not for new project, it is for deferred maintenance. And
Which is good.
And it's actually authored, one of them is authored by Senator Glazer. So I'm not sure if that's the one that's going to be, but one of them is, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I don't know if there's any public comment on this item. No public comment. Okay, well, this was just a discussion item, but we thank you very much for bringing it to us. And as always, there's more to do than the money we have, but it seems like you're doing a great job of tuning through to figure out what things we need to do right away and how to best spend our resources. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing on our local control accountability plan. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing. and ask Superintendent Gumi to lead us in this discussion.
Okay. Okay, so it is our local control and accountability plan. Oh, that's strange.
Maybe stop mirroring and starting it.
Yeah, sorry about
Do we
that.
lose Eve?
No, Eve's here. Sorry, Eve, we're just a little tech issue here. Then,
Sharing a different screen. I think it was a PowerPoint.
what is she? Oh, she's got the right.
No, yeah, it reset.
Yeah, Stewart's was a PowerPoint, so it's, okay.
Let's get rid of that, yeah. Yeah, well done. Let me see. Yep, okay,
And then
and now I'll do that. Okay. Yep, okay, we're good. Okay, let's start it again. All right, so LCAP, so this is our annual LCAP presentation, and just as a reminder, the LCAP is a 3-year plan that includes goals, actions, and services, and then related expenditures to support positive student outcomes and then continuous improvement. It really is an opportunity for us to assess local needs, gather input, and share with the community why programs and selected services meet student needs. It is a state requirement, and it is part of the local control funding formula. So for us to actually get funded, we must develop the LCAP. We do have 8 state priorities and then associated metrics that must be included in the LCAP. And we must hold a public hearing and allow the community to provide input. And then at the following meeting, there has to be an action. So just some components of the LCAP. This year's LCAP, it seems like there has been no LCAP that has had the same component requirements. So this LCAP is requiring the update to the 23-24 action item and established metrics. So you'll see that attached, but we are not reporting on that tonight. There is a budget overview for the parents for the 24-25 LCFF budget, and then the 24-25 3-year LCAP. We say 3-year because it actually is going to go 25 through 27, but this year being the first year of the 3 years. It's kind of a little confusing. And then for the first time, the state has asked for us to do a local indicator self-reflection as part of the LCAP. This is something actually that we've always done in November as part of the state requirement. And this time it's now. So here it is. So it's all done and included, and also something that we will not present as a separate item, but it's included in the metrics and the action items, but it is attached as a separate document. So to share the development process and the timeline, again, it's a 3-year plan. So it goes through the 25 through the 27 school year, and this being the first year of the 3-year plan. And being that it's a first year, it's a brand new LCAP. So it requires all new goals, all new action items, even though many of them are repeat because we have just revised our old one. We must gather a lot of input to inform the final analysis of the last LCAP and the local indicators and the development of the new one. The budget development is aligned to the LCAP goals. And it's, again, a required public hearing. The board must approve it before July 1. So we're going to keep coming back here with revision unless it's until it's approved. I will say that the county has to approve it as well. So they have been partners throughout the development process. They have access to it in our template system, so they keep watching it, but they will eventually look through it as well and make some minor edits and so on. I will say that in 21-22 school year, Orinda went through a very robust strategic directions planning process where we revised our mission and our strategic priorities and goals. So at that time, our last LCAP was updated. So our goals were really new. before. So if these look similar, it's because we had just redone the last ones as well. But it is always our goal that our LCAP and strategic directions will be aligned so that we don't have various priorities going. And then our metrics and data have been updated. So the current LCAP goals have been revised, new action steps and evaluation metrics were developed. So this is sort of the overview of how it all fits together. We have an overarching mission statement, which is, we're thinking of it should be probably examined at least every 6 to 8 years. The strategic priorities, which we were saying we should probably look at about every 5 years or so, if they're still relevant. And then on annual basis, the board examines its goals and priorities, the districts examine its LCAP, and the school sites look at their single plans for student achievement so that it all fits under the same umbrella and we drive the progress in the same direction. Our timeline for the development, November through January of this school year, we've really started reviewing our data and our metrics, updating last year's metrics, examining the data. What does it look like? Our achievement data, our attendance, staffing, school climate, facilities, engagement. And then between February and April of the school year, we really engaged our community in providing us feedback. We talked to our students, our staff, parent, community, and got a lot of input. We kicked it off with survey, a very thorough survey over all of the goals, and then really went into the focus groups to talk to all of the focus groups, and you'll hear more into detail of all of them to really get into the specifics around their feedback. The LCAP and budget development really started writing the goals at the early May, end of April, and then went back out again to the focus groups to get the feedback on those developed goals. And then here we are presenting it in June. So here are our partners. By the way, LCAP used to call them stakeholders. Now they're called educational partners. So if you hear that term, it's in lieu of stakeholders. So community engagement or input gathering, as I mentioned, we did it through a variety of ways. We started off with a comprehensive survey, then focus group meetings. We examined our evidence data and thorough analysis. And these are the groups that we engaged to obtain the feedback. Our parents and guardians, they took the survey on the LCAP goals and strategic priorities. We then did very specific focus groups around the wellness and equity. And then went into every school to gather their school-based focus group. One group actually that's missing here and should have been mentioned is the coordinating council. Coordinating council also had feedback at the start and then on the draft goals. The students also took a survey. Students in grades 4 through 8, hundreds of them, took the survey. And then we also took the California Healthy Kids survey in grades 5 and 7, and then met with all the school-based focus groups, so students from all the schools. Our staff, classified and certificated, took the surveys, and then had school-based focus groups from every school site. Mainly was certificated, but everybody was invited. And then focus groups, we had wellness, equity, and then a very specific curriculum group. We also had a district leadership team, which is our district and site administration. Okay, just a reminder, these are the mission statement and strategic directions. I won't read them through because there's posters everywhere and hopefully we all just have them memorized, but that's what we're aligned to. I also just wanted to post, these are our state priorities. These are the state priorities that the state says you must include in some way or the other within the LCAP. And then how are the goals structured? So the LCAP template is pretty challenging to read. So I just put this out here for if there are people that are actually reading it out there. We write overarching goals, and there's 4 of them that the district has selected to propose. And then we write actions to support how we're going to achieve those goals. And there are budget items and resources allocated in each action. I will say that this year specifically, we have several action steps that were established as a priority for the district, but were unfunded. And we actually had a long discussion with the county office on how to do that because they kept coming up in different surveys, but we didn't have the money to fund it. So we didn't want to drop it as a priority because it's a 3-year plan. So their suggestions were to do it one of two ways. Either don't put it in your LCAP and remember to put it in year 2 or year 3. We can't remember things a year from now. Or put it in there now and say it's temporarily unfunded, but it's your priority, and then you'll fund it should there funding be. So once it's in there, at least we'll remember that it's a priority and always look for funding to fund it. So that's hopefully, that's what we did. So you'll notice that. And then there's the piece of measuring and reporting results. There are many metrics that the state requires that we put in there. One of them being like, for example, chronic absenteeism that has to be measured, or attendance of students, or CASP data has to be in there. So there's quite a lot more metrics on the high school side with graduation cohorts, UC acceptance rates and so on. So we utilize always the ones that are mandated. If you open up the LCAP template, the mandated ones have little asterisks next to them and a little letter because we always designate the ones that we must use. We utilize the 23-24 data as the baseline to the metrics. And then we are supposed to kind of establish what is our metric goal in 26-27. What are we going to do? How are we going to move that metric? So it looks a little bit like this. I took a screenshot out of this. So when we establish a metric, for example, it will say, there's our baseline, and then there will be nothing written in year outcome in year 2 because we'll fill that in next 2 years, and then we'll have a target established. And then for our action items, you will see them all numbered under the goals. There's the kind of an overarching title, and there'll be this really long action item, how much money we're establishing. There's this title, contributing or not contributing. Contributing means that it's very specifically going to the unduplicated students and not all others. So for example, it could just be going to our homeless or foster youth or English learners. If it's not contributing, meaning everybody can benefit, including our unduplicated students, so it's school-wide. So it doesn't mean that they're excluded, it's just that everyone is. Okay, any questions up until now before I get into the goals? Okay, all right. Okay, so I won't read through these goals because we're going to get into each one, but we still have 4 goals and they go into basically aligned with our strategic directions. So we have a goal around student learning, community of belonging, highly qualified staff, and then responsible management of resources. So in our goal 1 in student learning, it is our goal to enhance student learning outcomes by implementing a differentiated, evidence-based curriculum tailored to meet the diverse needs and abilities of all students, while supporting district-wide alignment and instructional practices to ensure educational equity across all grades and department levels. It's a lot in one goal. As you can see, there are some really key words in there, like differentiated, because that kept coming up. It is your favorite word, yes. But that was a favorite word of many of our community partners during the engagement sessions. It is evidence-based curriculum. We are trying to implement science, evidence-based, research-based curriculum. Clearly, we want to meet all of our students and their diverse needs. And then also we want to make sure that we're supporting really the big words that kept coming up is alignment, alignment across the district in grade levels and instructional practices, not just in what we're teaching, but how we're teaching it. So, and the purpose of all is the educational equity. So try to encompass all that in this goal. So not all action items are represented in the slides, or I would have just presenting the template. So there's a lot more of them. I will also say that one of the hardest parts of the LCAP was trying to prioritize things. So we do have a, not in the LCAP to-do list. So things that are very much like quickly can be accomplished, but I think can contribute to this, but maybe don't necessarily need to be in the LCAP. But some summary of action items or just highlights. We have really embarked on a powerful work of our professional learning communities, and that kept coming up from our staff of how meaningful that's been, and that curriculum support of that curriculum alignment. So we want to continue that work. For our support of our English learners, continuing clearly the work of our English learner teacher, and you have seen those presentations. We do need to expand that to do more training and engagement of our parents. That is one parent group that has really not been engaged, not because we didn't want to, they just weren't as engaged. So we really need to reach out and also provide more training for our staff through our ELD teacher. Continuing adoption of new curriculum, one of them in front of you tonight, and then also supplementing the curriculum that is not sufficient. Not one curriculum is perfect. So what does that look like to supplement curriculum that we currently have? You heard the word differentiation, but like really our big focus in professional learning community is also the systematic intervention support system. How do we identify intervention? Does not only mean just for support of those that are struggling, but supporting those that are accelerating. So how are we supporting on differentiation on both sides, continuing really the systematic approach of our tiered support system on both ends within the classroom, and differentiation at tier 2 with regards to student study team, student response teams, and so on. And what does that look like? There were some kind of interesting trends that came up that haven't been in our LCAPs and our focus before. Examination of our grading practices and homework policies. There was quite a bit of work that was done between Geeti and Kevin, leadership, and our staff member amongst the report cards. But what else does that continue to look like? And then what does that look like at the middle school with regards to grading per practice? And even the middle school staff as well. There's pockets of work around the grading for equity work, or grading for learning, right? Assessment for learning, but not necessarily systematically district-wide. We don't have grading policies at the district level. So what does that look like? And with that also homework, interest from all community members on the homework policies. What's the purpose of homework? What's the vision of homework? Again, evidence-based, how much and why, TK through 8th grade, and so on. The one of the metrics in the local indicators is broad course of study, that our students should have access to the broad course of study. And we do. We virtually have open enrollment into our courses of study, especially at the middle school, and that's really mainly seen in world languages and math pathways. But they're not outlined clearly. They're not memorialized. We do not have a policy on approval of courses. We don't have a policy or course offerings. We saw that very clearly in our February meeting. How many students can take what courses? What are the clear pathways? So we do want to bring that process and policy and course catalog to you in the fall. There was talk about summer programming, intervention support during, we have academy at the middle school that continues to grow. But what does that look like at the elementary school? There are times within a structural schedule that teachers have identified, hey, so half the kids are not there during early bird and late bird. Can that time be utilized to provide additional support? So if the early birds are there, the late birds could be getting intervention. In math, for example, that's one of our unfunded priorities, right? To provide support staff to actually teach, to pull those students in. There's also structures within, I think they're currently talked walk to math. There used to be, by ability level, within the grade level differentiation and so on. So there's all sorts of things that we can do within a schedule to provide that intervention, because math intervention was brought up as quite a bit of we need support in math intervention to our students, kind of equivalent to our literacy. How are we measuring the outcomes? I mean, there's some state and local state assessments that are very much that we're utilizing as a required metric, and then local assessments. Some of that is actually also examining what local assessments we're using. Some of them are a little dated and need a reevaluation. Looking at our English learner successes is measured by how many students are making progress towards reclassification and proficiency, how many students are accessing our courses, different courses, which programs, acceleration, or how many of our are not accessing even grade level. Our goal is grade level or above. Alignment of curriculum is measured by those local indicators. The local indicator tool allows you to, it has a reflection of like, okay, how successful are we, for example, in implementing, I'm going to use phonics because that's the one that we just adopted. Is it full implementation and sustainable, right? That's the metric. Probably not sustainable yet. We haven't provided enough of the professional development or the training or evaluation. So we're there, but not there all the way. So we want to be fully aligned to state curriculum and at the level of implementation and sustainability. And then at the middle school, we have been pulling grades for the last couple of years to see how many students are getting, what percent is getting C's, D's, and F's. The high school is measured D's and F. I think a couple of years ago, we added C's at the middle school as well to see what percentage of students so we can measure. That's goal one. The other ones are a little faster. To community of belonging.
Learning is what we do. So.
It is our bread and butter.
Yes.
So community of belonging, but for you to actually learn, students do have to feel like they belong and must be included. So in this goal, we are committed to foster and nurturing educational environments that promotes wellness and social emotional well-being for all students by embedding equity and inclusivity at the core of our student programs. So mental health and social emotional learning, I mean, it has to be at the forefront because it's not just the pandemic that has amplified it, but it's the mental health challenges have just remained and continue to be here for all sorts of different reasons. So I think we can stop blaming the pandemic because it's here and we just have to continue to address it. Also, we do continue to have issues of inequities and social emotional challenges that while we're making great headways are just still continue to be here. So we are a great district. It'll be a great district for all of our students and how they feel. So with that, some of the action items, I mean, one of the biggest, if not the biggest comment through our focus groups, our input has been the successes of our counseling, wellness counseling, the expansion of our counseling in OIS and introduction and building of our wellness counselors centers at the K-5 level. So how do we maintain that? How do we continue growing those programs? What do we do with that? Implementation of character education program. We are in the midst of the second step and added anti-bullying modules to that. So we want to continue that and then examining, if we can supplement that. We do not have as robust of a programming. Our programming is developed really is just supplemental programming at OIS. It's built by our counselors. So is there something that we can supplement to? Right now, we're just supplementing. So review really what is our SAL programming at the middle school, and that is at their request. Positive attendance campaign. Carrie's done a great job starting that up this year. But really examining our policies around independent study and continuing on the positive attendance campaign and managing that, not just around the funding, because that is a lot too, but really bringing the kids to school. What does that mean? Our attendance has gone up, but bringing the students back, especially with the mental health challenges. While the attendance has gone up, the attendance is not, the percentages of students attending are very unequal by race, ethnicity in our student subgroups. So our Hispanic students, for example, have by far the highest chronic absenteeism, and that was in our school district. So that's just one of the examples. So we really need to do a very targeted campaign on positive attendance. Again, and I say positive, it's not penalizing students for not attending.
I also think there are a lot of misconceptions. People don't understand the difference between
education about it, right?
Excused absence, unexcused absence, what that means.
Right. Social media, I mean, that's been one of the biggest conversations around our wellness committee is the parent and students education relating responsible social media. And that has been our commitment on handling that. And then we have continued the funding for equity-based professional development. What we did add in our action items is resources for really moving a little bit more into the curriculum. So partnering with organizations like Facing History in Ourselves or other organizations to really examine what are we doing in our classrooms? How do we actually teach certain topics in a culturally relevant way? And we want to continue with these steering committees in this area. We have wellness committee, equity committee, and we're actually have been asked to start we don't know the name of it yet, but something around the special education support of students. We have POISE, which is very much parents supporting parents, but this is an advisory committee to the district. So again, we haven't come up with a name, but we have time till the fall to do something like that. And that would be under equity as well, because equity is all of our students, so students with disabilities. So summary of outcomes: attendance, chronic absenteeism, connectedness data. There's a lot of Healthy Kids survey. Suicidal ideation is measured by Healthy Kids. Incidents of cyberbullying. We focus on cyberbullying because that's the metric that has been increased over the last few years. Counseling and wellness visits, and support data are among some of those highlights. Okay, can't do any of those if we don't have staff members.
right.
So our highly qualified staff recruit and retain highly qualified staff in an environment where educators feel valued and supported to excel in their roles, contributing to the overall excellence and dedication to student success. So again, some of the highlights here, we don't want to just bring staff in, we want to make sure they stay here. And we also want to create an environment and make sure that we have one where the staff feel valued and where they're supported. While they work very hard to support our students. So we do have some ongoing support through our new staff members. So we continue with the teacher induction program. We started the teacher support providers. Those are new staff members, not new to teaching, but new to Orinda, because sometimes you can be coming out of a different district. And we just look very different, and buddy teachers as well. So that will continue as well. Really want to examine professional development, the RTI, response to intervention, curricular alignment, phonics, the pedagogy of it, the science of learning, of reading. And then, should the board adopt the social studies curriculum, we want to make sure the staff is actually supported through professional development and feel successful teaching it. We have had this action item, and we are committed to having it as comprehensive professional development plan, certificated and classified, to really have a ongoing plan of how all of our staff are supported. The last bullet, again, is one of those unfunded. Unfortunately, we have, due to budget cuts, had reduced TOSAs. Over the years have gone from many to few to really none, except the literacy intervention specialists. And that was an ongoing feedback from our staff in the missing of the literacy and math, especially in TOSAs. So we just put that in there. That was prioritized, but we just at this moment cannot afford it. We do measure by a required metric, how many fully credentialed staff members we have. And then we were trying to figure out, how do we measure recruitment and how do we measure retention? Because there are no metrics around that. So what we have done for recruitment, we figured, okay, so how many vacancies do we have at the start of the year? Because we actually started examining, okay, so using this as a year, right, as a baseline, we had some vacancies that classified. We actually started the year fully staffed and certificated. So that's our baseline. We want to be 100% staffed. So wanted to, in all of our positions. And then measuring retention through exit interviews with Brian as really unexplained departures. So if they're just leaving and we just don't know why. So how do we measuring that retention? Okay, and the last one is, funding is an issue and also management of resources, but it's not just, you just heard facilities. That's been one of our, such a big focus in the last couple of years. It's not just about the funding, it's also all of our other resources. So the district will ensure long-term fiscal stability and effectively manage facility needs. I know it's a weirdly written goal, so if anyone has a better way of doing it, please tell me. So continue the 5-year deferred maintenance plan with public reports on the progress and project completions. There was quite a bit of input of actually developing a facilities master plan. We didn't put that on a plate quite for next year, but did 2 years out of examining what as should we've had the bond, possibility of a state bond, possibility of looking at a bond and some other future. What does a facility plan look like? We have parent club projects, we have school-wide projects. What does an overall plan look like of how to actually improve our facilities? Budget steering committee came out of our recommendation. Actually, this is just to clarify, it's not a reduction committee, staff reduction or budget reduction, but we do have, we are challenged with the fact that we have a little over a quarter of our budget really funded by one-time money. But the costs are not one time. So when we were sitting with the coordinating council in our last meeting and reviewing the May revise, they have lost a lot of the revenues through their ongoing fundraisers. We need to sit down at the table with staff, board members, district admin, principals, and parent leaders to really start thinking out of the box in some creative ways, which I have no answers to right now, with a group of people of examining how do we think about our budget in Orinda differently when such a huge portion of the budget is one-time funding ongoingly increasing costs. And because we need to either determine increasing our revenue or decreasing our expenses or reprioritizing or doing something different, because we're going to be the issue is just going to get worse. There was quite a bit of input around school facility cleanliness and upkeep, and that's part of, we are very short staffed in our maintenance and facilities department, and we just need to examine that. We have some strategies on what that looks like, re-examining our schedules and so on. So we do have some action items around that. Outcomes deferred maintenance plan. We want to have a stable district budget while addressing staff compensation, staff support and programming, facilities master plan, and student usage of nature area. I know that's, we had that metric before. We had actually a metric of 74% students of Orinda utilizing, in K-5 utilizing, going to the nature area, and it went down to 0. So I brought that back up as the metric to hopefully have that in the future. So that's the overview of the goals. Our next step is really, this is a public hearing. We did have this posted on our website and went out to the parents as well in the communication. We received one email, which I think the board received as well. And then we can make adjustments all throughout probably Thursday. It will go public again on Friday. And it will stay on for any members of the public to still communicate with us. But we can, and then schools will develop their single plans in the fall to adjust to these goals. So happy to hear any feedback or adjustments or questions before we move to the budget.
Great, thank you. Eve, did you have anything?
No, not on this.
Okay. Lauren?
No, nothing specific. I mean, that was very thorough. Appreciate it. And I really, I've seen the larger scope of what you kind of narrowed down here. And I really appreciate the way that you did that. One of my questions related to the rationale for including unfunded priorities. And I think that you explained that. I don't know that it's entirely clear everywhere in the LCAP where it is unfunded. So I would maybe try to draw a little bit more attention to that in the actual LCAP itself. Just that's one piece of feedback. And then as it relates to the wellness, the community of belonging, I know we have in here summary of action steps, wellness counselor, it talks about wellness counselors and maintaining increase in grades 6 through 8, and maybe it doesn't really fit in this or it's just something for broader discussion, but just the OIS Wellness Center itself. I would like a little, maybe some focus there in terms of a plan around that, because I know that at this point, there really isn't a full plan around how that's going to be utilized.
Yes, we can actually have that, yeah. Mhm.
Kind of my couple quick things. I'm sure other board members have other.
That's great.
I agree with Hillary. It was very comprehensive and I know you shrunk down a lot. So I appreciate it and I'm in agreement with how these goals line up. I think they line up well with the rest of the strategic initiatives and our own board goals. My one comment is around goal 1, because I think it's intentionally the largest, since it is the education, the most academic of the 4. And it's, you said there were keywords in there and I'd already written down what I thought the keywords were, which lined up: alignment and differentiation. Curriculum implementation could be its own category in my mind, or it could fall under the alignment. So I don't think in these particular documents, it needs to be called out, but I would hope or suggest that in your to-do list of things that they're literally marked by whether or not the goals are driving after differentiation, alignment, or curriculum. So that when these goals head to the schools to be implemented or to design their own school-wide goals, those pieces come through clearly. Because I think the goal itself is really wordy and it can kind of get lost in there, what you're driving towards. And I think at each school site, differentiation or alignment or curriculum implementation means something slightly different, or the focus rather is slightly different or should be different, year 1 versus year 2 versus year 3. So I think calling that out might help with kind of narrowing the focus and just making this more actionable.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for the report. Really appreciate that. After having been part of some of those focus groups and seeing all that, it really is amazing, as everyone has said. Just have a few questions around the inclusion of the ELA student parent community and how that can be done. I know that is how we can, and what other districts are doing there too.
Yeah.
I know that's challenging because ours is maybe a little bit smaller than some of the other districts.
But it's growing.
It's growing,
So our English learner community is growing. We invited individually one response. We need to have a robust DLAC, district-wide English learner committee. So we'll need to restart that.
Okay.
I think that part of challenge, and this is similar to Mirmani and Akalani's having worked with a group, is the diversity of our English learner group. So many other districts, you have a overarching, a big majority is one language spoken.
Right.
So not
Over 20, right? Or something like that.
so
Probably.
that your group, not to say that they, regardless if they all speak one language that you can, but it's such a diverse group. When we look at them, it's a small, it's a huge pie chart of all different colors. I say colors because they're all marking in different languages. So, so finding how do we engage because of different cultures, different language, different time commitments has been really challenging. We did have a very active group of parents led by Francesca up until last year, or up until this year really, but last year, and that were it's Orinda Students of International Families.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
SIFA. That really our English learner families sort of folded in under that. So they were constantly coming in and we were organizing events through them and they fell apart. I think she moved. So they fell apart and then we really need to reorganize what that looks like.
Maybe a steering committee?
So we
I know
could,
that's
so the steering committee is a DLAC
to-do
committee
list.
really. So it is working with Tabitha. How do we do that now that we've lost this other Orinda group? And what does that look like? But I agree.
Yeah. That's helpful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
The other thing is around homework. I know we've heard so many there are varying views of homework. Just wondering how, there's lots of articles around homework and evidence-based, and how to prepare students, blah, blah, blah. But would love to see, a deeper dive there. Because our teachers do a lot of work in prepping for their class, their time and the homework lessons and all these things. And, it is essential, but would love to see if you could provide some information there on the research and why it's important.
And that's our goal to do that. Is there's a lot of research done around homework, and the homework really, I won't go into it right now because but we wouldn't go by our own.
Right.
What does it look like?
Yeah.
We'd probably look to partner either with Stanford's Challenge Success, because they've done quite a bit of work with local districts, reputable organization, and there's a lot of evidence done around homework, and it's by grade level. Homework in middle school versus homework in grades 4, 5 versus in TKK, there's quite a bit of difference in what that looks like, how much it should be, and what it should be. So we really want to make sure that it's evidence-based.
Yes.
And then also that it's not dependent on what kind of resources you have at home. So it's not just about alignment. Hey, if you're organizing worksheets, that you're putting in worksheets, that it is that the worksheets are not leading to learning, you shouldn't assign them. So what does homework look like in TK? Well, first grade could look very different than 6th grade or 8th grade. And it's also necessary, and it should, and not necessarily also hey, let's prepare them just for the overwhelm of maybe 9th grade. But it should be, it is increasing, right? In rigor.
It is.
And what does rigor look like? Is it just quantity or type of?
I could just add to that.
Yeah.
For me, it would also be looking at, developing study habits.
Yes. Yeah.
As part of that as well, because it's not just the, rote homework assignments.
Right.
The
Practice.
Yes.
Study skills.
Independent
Yes.
study skills. Yeah.
I've always said
Absolutely.
At the middle school
Yeah.
level.
So we do, the plan is to really move forward in a evidence-based research connected to an organization that we would partner with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then just 2 more.
Mhm.
Around staff, is there a buddy, mentor, mentee system, the unofficial or official that we have?
Brian, do you want to talk?
Sure, we have our buddy teacher, which are new staff.
I saw that, but it's,
And then we have our teacher
that's
support
official.
provider, which assumes the buddy role. And it also takes on more of a department or grade level support for that person in curriculum development and procedures at the school, and the go-to person for where's the best candy jar in the school. All those are kind of, they follow on that continuum. And we have the teacher support provider for teachers who may be new but aren't eligible for the teacher induction program, where they have a very formal procedure and support structure built in. Teacher support provider. We had 3 or 4 teachers this past year. There's a stipend that's given to a teacher who takes on that role.
That's great. Thank you. And then finally, for the TOSA, have we measured, having a lack of TOSAs, how that affects any of our academic goals, specifically around test scores, grades? Is there a way to measure that at all? Or I don't know.
There's so many things out there, so
Yeah.
it's hard to just say that piece. I will say where I've heard it, and I don't know, Giti, you can add to this, is during the groups, during the focus and during the input. Just like, for example, the phonics implementation, it was who comes in and does the boots on the groundwork. Yes, our principals are supposed to be the instructional leaders. When we hire principals, we hire them with the lens of an instructional leader. But they're not in the classroom teaching. They can, look for engagement. They can organize the sharing of best practices and collaboration. They're not going to go in there and model a lesson. They're not going to co-team teach. They're not going to do those kind of things. So that's, I think, the piece that is missing. They're not going to put together resources. They're going to put together training. They're not going to do those sort of things. So that's the piece that we were saying is missing, or we were hearing is missing.
Right.
It's that really ongoing professional, constant PD that they were getting from the TOSAs. So what we did add is grade level leads. And added a lot more collaboration within the school day, which is working. it's working really well, and we're really putting in focus on developing our teacher leaders. Ultimately, will that just replace our TOSAs? Sure. I think when you're just implementing brand new curriculum is when it's missing, so that
That's a
piece is when they were hearing.
And I think just to add to that, I think one of the things that we heard a lot about the phonics piece was, our literacy TOSA would be able to go in and if they're leading a lesson in the classroom, they're digging into it, they're getting, their hands dirty. And so, and then they're able to like collaborate with the teacher. And so there was no one to do that digging in. And I think that's tricky because teachers, I think, did as much as they could, but that's one component of their teaching, right? And so I think that I heard a lot is they just needed a thought partner or someone that was doing it, or they could kind of team teach and then collaborate and discuss. So I know that was a piece that was missing for at least our K through third grade teachers. Then I think the math piece also is something that I heard kind of with just my check-ins of just not being able to have someone kind of I think our former math TOSA did a really great job of going into the classroom, and she was very hands-on and was leading lessons and collaborating with teachers. And so that was another piece, right? Of just not having that thought partner. I think that's the big piece.
Thank you. Questions?
I only wanted to ask about our unduplicated students because it doesn't seem like from this little recap of the entire plan that there's much mention of specifics that we're doing to make sure, particularly in the goal 1 of student learning, how our unduplicated students are coming up in the gaps that we've seen in the past.
The biggest gap that we had seen for our unduplicated is really around our English learner performance.
Okay, so you think that's sort of a redundant?
Yes.
That when you're
So-
talking about English learner, you're really addressing it.
Because all the other, we actually don't have enough students to really even
To
have
really
the
look at that.
metrics. But English learners do show up. And our percent of unduplicated has gone to 4.3%, I think, this year, which used to be
Little
just
bigger,
under
yeah.
3%. So we're growing in the group, and I think that is mainly due to English learner growth.
Okay.
But when we go back to the smarter balance data, that a gap is there. And while we had actually seen narrowing of the achievement gap in every other subgroup, all but English learners.
Okay.
With that said, English learners are always new,
Right.
because once you get proficient, you move those on, and there's a new group of students. It's
Right.
really hard to measure.
Sure.
But I think we're not reclassifying as high of a percent as we used to, and they're not making enough progress or as much of a progress. So I think we that is the focus of, and also as our numbers are increasing our percentages, we need to provide more training for our teachers of,
Yes.
hey, you're going to see more students that are in need of
English.
English learner.
Okay.
What does that look like? Yeah.
Okay. And is it similar for special ed students?
The gap is there, it's narrowing, but they're not part of our unduplicated, right?
That's right.
But
They're
they
separate.
are, yes, they are separate. Our biggest focus, I think, needs to be, we have an increasing number in autism, mental health, and then we need to really focus in on like some dyslexia training and so on for next school year, outreach to the parents, education and such.
Okay.
So,
Well, I just wanted to make sure.
sure,
that they were
absolutely, yeah.
included if I wasn't seeing
Yes,
it in those
yes,
ones. So
yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
This is a public hearing, so I want to make sure we take any public comment. Do we have any public comment online?
We do not have any public
And do we
comment.
have any public comment in person? Mr. Shannon? Welcome. Don't trip.
Yes, I want to say this year was the first year as a grade level facilitator. So it's the district's providing a lot of support and training for these facilitators as one for grade level. And that is helping us have those thought partners and have the time to do that on those Wednesdays. So I think that has been a goal that was brought by Aida Winnie, our superintendent. And I see that it's really working because before we did have TOSAs that provided us those opportunities. But now we have the time to have our whole grade level partners. We can also ask our principal to release time to watch each other teach a lesson and then give feedback. So I wanted to say that's been a great improvement, and that's something we should be proud of as we move forward with the LCAP plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
No, and the only comment that we received from the public was to make sure that we have excellence
Mhm.
in education, I think, which I would say I think we're addressing it.
Great. If there's no additional public comment on this item, then I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you. And if it's all right, before we start the budget, could we take a 5-minute recess?
I'm okay with that.
Thank you, Mika. Okay. Just a quick recess for everybody. So now we're moving on to the public hearing for our budget proposal. Again, this is a public hearing, and the point tonight is to hear about our budget, to take input, and then we will actually vote on our budget at our next meeting on June 10th. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing and ask our wonderful CBO to tell us about our budget this year.
Thank you. So this is the 24-25 proposed budget. Ed code requires district to adopt the budget by July 1st and hold public hearing before that. So we bring this one today, and then we will bring it back next Monday for the second time for the adoption. County superintendent will approve, disapprove, or partially approve by September 15th. And the budget cycle. So today is the first of the annual budget cycle, June 3rd. Governor had May revision announced next. Thank you. The highlights from the May revision is the quota is going to be 1.07, and we are hearing this will probably stay the same. The personal income tax declined compared to January, governor's January budget. It was declined significantly from for 22-23 and 23-24. So their proposal is to withdraw from the Prop 98 reserve. And they have an amount that they are proposing to withdraw, but this will use up all the savings in the Prop 98 reserve. But this maneuver has another, what do I say?
Drawback?
Yes.
Effect.
Yeah, thank you. So by using this money from the reserve to backfill the 22-23 and 23-24, that will reset the minimum guarantee, which is the base of the calculation for the following year. So if the minimum guarantee goes down, then calculated from that amount for the following year will be lower. So that was many organizations was worried about. And there are some news came after that, but we still don't know what's going to happen until enacted budget. So that right now, whatever the governor proposed for the May revision is used for the proposed budget. This quota 1.07 will be applied to certain categorical programs, like it usually happens every year, like special ed, mandated work grant, those things. So we can look at the revenue, 24-25 revenue. Proposed budget revenue includes 672,000 increase in LCFF revenue from 23-24 to 24-25. This is due to partially quota and enrollment growth. Slight decrease in the state revenue. That is just the 23-24 revenue included lottery prior year adjustment, which may happen again, but at this point, 24-25 doesn't have prior year adjustment. So that's the difference. and also universal pre-K, that was the deferred revenue program. So whatever was not used, revenue was budgeted in 23-24, but that will be fully spent. So that amount will not be in 24-25 revenue. And the local revenue will be adjusted as it comes in. So the total revenue wise, unrestricted and restricted, it increased about 335,000 from 23-24 to 24-25. So that's partially, increasing LCFF, but decrease in state revenue. And also local revenue, we can't budget for it until we receive it. Certain amount we already know, so those are budgeted, but certain amount we still don't know. So those are reduced. So that's increase and decrease. The total of revenue increase is 335,000.
Ask a quick question.
Yeah.
But the TK students, we get the per day.
Yes.
Yeah.
ADA.
ADA, yeah.
For student,
Additional amount we have received. And for part of the increase is TK is going up.
The number of students.
Right.
It's adding students to our overall enrollment.
Yes.
And we get the ADA for those students. So that's.
we only
part of
get
the increase.
ADA for students who qualify for TK by age group. So should we have allowed early TKers? We actually get penalized.
Uh-huh. But now this next year, it's all.
No, 2 more months, and then the year after is all.
Oh, okay.
How do we get penalized?
The state, you actually have to declare how many students you have who are not at age that we've allowed or is early enrollment, and they give us a financial penalty, which we don't have any.
Right. Thank you.
So our revenue, 65%. Sorry. Yeah. So blue part is LCFF revenue. That's a 65%. That will have the 1.07% quota increase. Local revenue is about 26%, 9% parent donation, and 14% parcel tax. And the rest is like interest earnings and other things. So the next one shows the chart. The general purpose, the top part, that's LCF revenue, and also the property tax revenue of special ed part of property tax revenue. And the federal is Title II, and the local entitlement, that's special ed, federal revenue. State revenue is lottery, some special ed revenue, transportation reimbursement falls into this category too. We have local revenue, 11 million, that's parcel tax, and also part of special ed AB 602 revenue as well.
And the bonds too?
No, not bonds. Bonds are in
taxes?
Yes.
And what about one Orinda? Is that included or not?
One Orinda is included in the local.
In the 11 million?
4 million. Yeah. Other sources, those are the reimbursement or credit from the IRS for their clean energy. And that's the revenue. And let's look at the expenditure. The expenditure highlight, we increased 6%, which happened in January, but that's included in the expenditure increase. The combination of PKS and right sizing, we budgeted 5 FTE less certificated positions. 24-25 still has one-time funds that is paying for part of TOSA and wellness counselor and many other PDs. That will be fully spent in 25-26 and also 26-27. So slowly those things will be moved from restricted funds to unrestricted funds. With the anticipation of solar panels all back up, and being used. Electricity bill budget was decreased. Election cost for next year was added. Insurance is increasing. And this year, the result of AB 218, that bill is coming, so that's also budgeted. Insurance budget is increased. EDOF budget will be included once the plan is approved. So next one shows the pie chart. So blue part is the certificated salary and benefit. This is about 60% of our budget. And classified salary and benefits are about 21%. That's the red part. Next slide shows the chart. Like I said, that 60% is certificated, classified 21%. Books and supplies about 3% of our budget. 15% is contract service, and this includes like utilities, postage, all those things. Other outgo include the payment to other district or the county for the program that we don't have, and we are sending kids to other districts. And also the debt service payment for the clean energy fund. So expenditure-wise, the total increase from 23-24 to 24-25 is little over, well, it's about 1.4 million. Salary and benefit increase, that's including the 6% increase and the salary, step and column increase, that's about 1.5 million. And we have PKS and attrition savings, that's about 640,000. And then we have additional expenditure budget for the special education. Technology budget, because 23-24, at the end of the 23-24, we are purchasing many equipment, and which is not budgeted in the new year yet. I don't know if it will come or if it will stay this way. So about 130,000 that decreased from current year. The insurance, legal, election, the total increase is about 200,000. And since we are not contributing to deferred maintenance fund, we have 100,000 less in expenditure budget. So the overall expenditure increase is 1.4 million. And our revenue increased about 335,000. So when we look at the fund balance, so left side is the unrestricted budget. The total revenue is 25 million and the total expenditure is 26 million. So it's deficit spending of about 900,000. And the restricted side revenue is 18, expenditure is 19. And this is kind of typical because we received the revenue sometimes in 22-23, we already recognized it and we are using it. So having upside down with the restricted budget is rather typical. So the overall, we are going to have a 1.7 million decrease in fund balance. And so 23-24 estimated actual is looking like this. Unrestricted side, it's about 12,000 deficit. And the restricted side is 700,000. And this will carry over to, however it ends, it will carry over to 24-25. Next slide shows components of the fund balance. So this is for 24-25. The top part is the estimated actual. This may change But the beginning fund balance in 24-25, which is the ending fund balance of 23-24, is about 7 million. And our deficit spending is about 1.7 million, which leaves us 5 million in the ending fund balance. And we have non-spendable, this is revolving cash. Restricted is a categorical fund that's unspent. So that's restricted. And 3% reserve, 6% reserve, and 540,000 will be assigned to be spent for the following year, 25-26. And so that will leave us the 0 unassigned.
That's our next agenda item, right? That assigned?
Yes.
Yeah.
So next slide shows the other funds other than Fund 01. Cafeteria fund is anticipated to have about 600,000, but this, we don't know what's going to happen since everything new again. Deferred maintenance, right now we have about 40,000, but this summer we're going to fully spend it, so it's going to be 0. And we have no plan of contributing anything. Building Fund 21, this is the major E&I bond. So right now, all the encumbrance and the modernization plan, if everything finishes, then it will be 1.1 million in the ending fund balance at the end of 24-25. Fund 25 capital facility, this is developer fee funds. Stuart talked about it a little bit. This we can use it for the facility if it is the result of growing enrollment. We are anticipating to have 800,000. Fund 40, 3 million. Debt service fund will have about 5 million. Fund 63 is the BUSC funds. This will have about 300, and it's actually the ending fund balance of 23-24. So 24-25, we are anticipating it to be almost a break even, probably like $2,000. And Fund 71, OPEB fund, we have about 1.6 million.
Mika, can I interrupt just for a moment? So the cafeteria fund, we're trying to, well, there's on the consent agenda item, there's a food service coordinator as a liaison person revision. Then also really hoping to reinvest this all during the summer into equipment and upgrades and throughout the next year as we work with Chartwells. So we are not wanting to sit on any cafeteria fund money, but it could only be used with the cafeteria. So as we onboard Chartwell starting July 1, we really can start digging into that. Just a clarification, because I might have seen some reactions amongst the board. Mika, the measure E&I Fund 21 and the number and 51, so the 51 is the interest earned. We use that towards measure E&I project as well, right?
Fund 51, that's a debt service fund. We use this money to pay the principal and the interest to pay back the bond.
Got it. Okay. But then are you saying that we own out of $105 million, only have $1 million left?
Well, well, we budgeted this way, but I don't anticipate everything to be done.
So are you saying if
If modernization.
the last project on our list of projects is modernization, I think that's supposed to be completed over 2 years, but if that were all completed, we'd then have $1,170,000 left.
Yeah. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Okay.
And going back to food service, we want to invest in equipment and make it new. Only thing is that Fund 13 cannot pay for the things in the wall.
Right.
So if we have to do, replace the equipment, in order to do that, if we have to change the piping or then,
I understand.
Fund 13 cannot pay for.
And also developer fees are about to get quite a bit of depletion due to the new portables that have arrived
Right.
at Sleepy this morning.
Oh, that's exciting.
Oh yeah, they came in first day.
That's great. I like that.
So, and so on. So there's quite a bit of actually expenditures coming out immediately. So-
Good.
Sorry, one more question about the building fund. Does the number include any work to be done at OIS in the old admin?
That's part of the modernization. That was part of the budget.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make
Yes.
sure that was, okay. Thanks.
Yes. So multi-year projection. Multi-year projection assumptions, enrollment, 24-25 enrollment is from the real number as of May 9th. And it fluctuates, of course, but we believe it's pretty close. I don't think it's going to change that much. 25, 26, 26, 27 enrollment, these are from the demographer. Yeah, thank you. So 25, 26, it increases about 40. And if you notice, the TK is estimated to grow about 50. So most of it from growing in TK. And then 26, 27, all of a sudden it growth stops. Yeah, yes. Quota, CPI, STIRS, PERS rate, these are all coming from the school services dashboard.
What's the difference between COLA and the Consumer Price Index?
Quota is, I don't know if I can explain.
Do we get additional money from the
No.
state for both?
CPI is how much it costs to buy products. So
I see.
as opposed to COLA as a cost of living.
Living adjustment. So the CPI affects the expenditure side of
Yeah.
our budget.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So this CPI was used to increase the doing business expense in the supplies and the services. And then the next page shows that little more about it. ADA was 96.5% with the 23-24 P2, and we are using the same percentage. And I wrote it somewhere. And no other revenue increase other than LCFF funds. There are some increase, but the majority of it is LCFF funds. Step and column increase is about 1.5%. And since one-time money is expiring at the end of 24-25 and 25-26, TOSA's FTE, wellness counselors FTE, HIP mentor, multiple PD expenses, all these are moving to the general fund from restricted fund. And for 25-26, we included the reduction of 2.2 certificated FTE and also 1.13 classified FTE. And the next slide shows the multi-year projection without these reductions, 2.2 FTE and 1.13 in classified. The top part is the beginning fund balance plus revenue minus expenditure, and the net increase decrease in 24-25 is 1.7 like we talked about, and 25-26 is 900. And from ending fund balance, and we are short of about 400,000 in 25-26. And that will accumulate in 26-27, and it becomes almost 800 100,000 shortage. So after including 2.2 FTE and 1.13 FTE reduction in 25-26, next slide shows after the reduction. So the bottom percentage has fund balance to the expenditure percentage. So we have 10%, which means we can meet the reserve requirement, 3% plus 6%. And we will be able to meet in 26-27 as well.
Okay, so that's a question.
With reductions.
Sorry, and these reductions, are they right-size reductions or are they?
They currently.
We know what
Not
that's.
necessarily.
Not necessarily, okay.
I think we can do right sizing, maybe at least another, probably in the certificated area, but not in the classified. So it would be a straight up layoff.
Be a layoff. Thank you.
So those aren't reductions that we have already made. Those are reductions.
These are on top of the 5.5 that we've already done, just to meet this year's budget.
So we'll need to
So this,
discuss these in this next.
in the budget committee and so on.
Okay.
So for Mika and I, when we were discussing this to even make the budget, we had to add additional reductions in 25-26
So, yeah,
because of the accumulated effect.
Right.
So we can make it 24-25, but we cannot make it 25-26 without the reduction. That's also the reason why there are many things in the LCAP that we would like to do, but we are unable to do.
Right.
Mhm.
So the summary for the proposed budget, again, 1.07% quota for 24-25 will probably not gonna change. It's gonna be adopted. ADA 96.5%. It's almost back to the historical level. It was about 97%. So if every student in Orinda comes one more day to school, then we can make it to 97%.
That our slogan next year.
There you go.
Day.
One more day.
Not bad. I'm gonna do that.
And a 24-25 current 1.7% quota in 65% of our revenue doesn't cover the step economy increase, which is 1.5%. And the CalPERS increase 0.37%. Health and welfare is about 12% increase. And CPI, that's not for salary and benefit, but doing business cost, CPI is about 3.1% increase. And a one-time grant expiring. Universal TK expired current year. And next year, we're gonna have art music block grant expire, and 25-26 educator effectiveness, we are gonna use up all of them. So there will be no more one-time money. And increase in special ed cost and facility repair cost are the challenges. So the next step, we will bring this back to the board June 10th, next Monday, for the adoption. And the state enacted budget is July 1st, and depends on how much it changes. If it's significant change, we will do the 45-day budget revision.
Any questions for me or comments? Or
I think I asked most of my questions, but thank you.
questions were coming throughout.
Really thorough and, explained it in a way that we can understand.
Thank
Eve,
you.
did you have any questions?
She's there. No.
Okay, okay, great.
I think you keep
Sorry,
us.
just to talk about it.
Sorry.
No, this is very thorough.
Okay.
You keep us so informed about the budget all throughout the year that this was pretty much exactly what I expected. So I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Really excellent.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Mika, don't go anywhere yet because you're next.
Since this is a public hearing, I do.
Oh, I
have to-
apologize.
That's okay. I do have to ask if there's any public comment and if there's any public comment online.
We have
None online.
no
None
public,
online
and no
and no
input
cards.
has come in, no.
Okay, great. Well, then I will go ahead and close the public hearing and we look forward to approving your budget in June 10th. Thank you for all of the hard work that went into creating all of this and helping us figure out how to move forward. Thank you. Okay, now we can move on.
I apologize,
good.
Mika, you are still on.
Minimum reserve requirements.
So this one,
I think this is another public hearing.
Yes.
We have to hold a public hearing for budget adoption to include the following review, the minimum recommended reserve for economic uncertainties for each fiscal year identified in the budget, the combined assigned and unassigned ending fund balances, and a statement of reasons that substantiates the need for an assigned and unassigned ending fund balance that's in excess of the minimum recommended reserve for economic uncertainties for each fiscal year that the school district identifies, an assigned and unassigned ending fund balance that is in excess of the minimum. So with that, I will open the third public hearing and now Mika, sorry.
So we are required to disclose what is excess of. So there's ending fund balance, and the component of it is partially restricted, and some are required reserve, which is for us 6% and 3%. Anything excess to it, we are required to disclose what it is. So the 131,743, that is school site funds. That is the donation from the parent that is being carried over. So that's about 131,000. Set aside for Measure Z step column. So Measure Z money, we receive it and using it to class size reduction and pay for the certificated employee. But the amount we receive doesn't increase, but the expenditure increases. So the increase is, we are setting it on the side so that we will be able to pay at the end of council tax, 7 years. And 253,000 is set aside for TK expansion for 25-26. And that makes it 541,818. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
I guess just my question is the Measure Z step column increases. So that's something we're gonna have to do every year then? If we have those reserves?
Decrease.
It'll decrease. Okay. Thank you.
Very clear and valid reasons for
Yes.
his funds and where they're located, so thanks.
Eve, did you have any questions? Okay. Well, since this is a public hearing, do we have any public comments?
There's no public comment.
Okay, great. Then I will go ahead and close the public hearing. And I assume next week we'll have this also as an action item?
All of these will come back as action items.
Okay, great. Why don't we go ahead and move
This
on
one is
to,
listed as an action item.
It should have not.
Not?
It should be a discussion. Public hearing, excuse me. We'll adjust that. Apologies.
all right. So let's move on to our true action item, social studies textbook adoption. I had some people. I apologize for the length of the wait. So.
Yes.
E.T.
Yes, thank you. So during our last board meeting, we brought forward a recommendation for an adoption for our kindergarten through fifth grade social studies curriculum, Inquire Ed. Since that meeting, we had the curriculum displayed at all of our elementary schools, and there was no feedback. There was a link to a Google form and there was no feedback provided, no concerns submitted on the curriculum. So we are hoping to have this approved. What's included here is a quote for 3 years for access for to the curriculum.
And are these actual books or is everything online?
Everything is online. So what it does include is the first year, it includes all the consumables, all the print materials that teachers would print online. We have included that for the first year, just to determine whether or not that's something we want to continue with. We didn't want to do it for the full 3 years. And then if that is a need, the thought would be that we would, the district would decide at the end of the first year if they want to continue with that.
Is there no equivalent for grades, for the middle school grades? I noticed that in the contract, the consumables are for younger grades. Sorry, I should pull it back up, but not for middle school grades.
Well, this is for kinder.
Oh, sorry.
It's elementary.
I don't know why I was
Yeah.
thinking that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, never mind on that one. I do have a question about implementation while we're on that though.
Mhm.
And what's the plan for professional development for teachers so that they know what to do when they have this and how to implement it? I think the teachers who presented last month would be great resources. Sarah already had their hands on this to help with some of that. But just wondering what the plan would be for the start of the year.
Yeah, so I've connected with setting up training and PD, assuming this gets approved. So we do have that scheduled. We'll be able to schedule it once we've completed our meeting today for August 8th. I have connected Sarah, our incoming CNI director, with our rep, and I've connected with her. We've talked about a transition of what type of PD, what that can look like in terms of having some leads in the district that can help, like an implementation team. So we've talked about that and possibly tapping into our current pilot committee of being able to be a part of that. So we do have training scheduled, in-person training for August 8th, and that'll be the first training. There are several more that the company, that Inquire Ed offers. There's one-on-one coaching that is part of their kind of adoption, as well as more virtual PD that they offer, and that can be done over the course of 2 years. They have a menu of PD options, and so then depending on the need and what is determined at that time is what they can select. I have taken some notes based off of our experience with the pilot, and so I've shared that with our incoming director so that she can kind of look at some suggestions on topics for PD.
Thank you. I guess my last thought about this, because it is inquiry-based, which I think is awesome and great for this content area, especially. Sometimes that could be like really work heavy for the teacher. So I would just kind of put a word out to, I know you're heading off to other things, but for the new CNI director or principals, teachers to be aware of the time it's going to take to prep the units, especially in the first year, and to make sure that doesn't become like, I don't have time to quite implement this all the way because of X, Y, or Z. Because I think it's a great program, but it is pretty heavy in the planning department if done well.
Yeah. That was one of the things we talked about with the in terms of what the training can look like, really focusing on that inquiry, but then also providing time for our teachers during that August 8th day to be able to really dig into the upcoming units or those first units to have some planning time. So, yeah.
I have two questions around the students who are special ed and English as a second language, how the curriculum, is able to, how they're able to use it online.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that was mentioned a couple of times during our presentation, and when you explore the actual inquiries, there's a lot of repetition in the inquiries. And I think that is a piece that is super helpful for students who are at different levels. The other piece that is helpful is there are different types of texts and different levels of text that teachers can use. So there are opportunities for teachers to be able to differentiate with that different level, those different levels. So one of the pieces, because this was something that came up with our teachers too, in terms of being able to differentiate, one of the pieces that I had discussed with our Inquire Ed was looking at some specific PD that they have around differentiation, because that was a need that our teachers had expressed. But there are opportunities because of that repetition, because of the different ways that teachers can use the curriculum and the text, that they can do small groups and things of that nature to be able to really tailor it to some of those specific needs.
Okay, so it'll be basically revealed in the PD.
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
Thank you.
I don't know if Eve is still with us or if she had any. She said she might have to sign off.
I actually don't know that.
Okay.
I think she had to.
Yeah.
Okay, it was very late on the East
Yeah,
Coast, so I
okay.
think she had to sign off. We do have some public comment on this item, and I know they've been waiting patiently to make their public comment. So I'd like to call on Denise Burrian and then Laura Mullen from the American Association of University Women.
Thanks for being here.
But we didn't plan this very well. At least we didn't plan our dinner very well.
Chocolate back here, you want some chocolate?
But anyway, my name is Denise Burrian, and I am from American Association of University Women in Orinda, Colorado, Lafayette. And I've been the chair of the DEI committee for 4 years, and I'm going to be the incoming president. And getting involved in school boards is, for AUW, our number one priority for the state of California. So basically, because we want to guarantee that, and you guys are doing a great job. I mean, it's nice. I have been to other board meetings. I have stayed for most of them, and others. But it is really heartening to know and to see you in action, and not only the school board but the staff, and to see you in action and the teachers too. That you guys just do a fantastic job. And we thank you for all the efforts that go in it. It's obviously complicated, more complicated because you have to meet all the state laws and you do all your planning. And we we really appreciate what you do. So thank you for that. As you know, the State Board of Education decides on standards for all students. And I think Laura's going to talk about the Ed Code, but it seems to me that you're doing a good job. We haven't had a chance actually to read about the social sciences, your curriculum. So I'll just say that I hope, I would say support it if it complies with the state of California, meeting the needs of all of your students, which obviously is one of your primary goals and objectives. So, we just appreciate the fact that that is a main priority. It's not just your district, but other districts in our area. So we're very lucky to have you focusing on equal education for all. So thank you.
Thank you. Laura, thank you.
We do look at you. It's only on check with each other. My name is Laura Monin. I'm a 40-year resident of Moraga. We do have Orinda members in AEW. They couldn't come tonight. My 3 adult children attended Moraga schools and then went on to Camp Lindo. I even ran for school board in 1986, way before any of you came on the board. I lost, but I've been interested in, I'm a former teacher also. Did a lot of adult ed and then went into healthcare teaching. But today we're speaking on behalf of American Association of University Women, Orinda, Moraga, Lafayette. As my friend said, I'm the chair of the Public Policy Committee. We believe, and I hope this is not repetitive to someone else that has come before, that high quality public education is the foundation of democratic society, key to improving economic prosperity and gender equality, which is, of course, one of our goals. We support academic freedom, civic engagement, protection from censorship and bias-free education, free from hate and discrimination, as well as access to curriculum that represents historically accurate information. And you went through the what's coming next, but hopefully the curriculum that you're working on will include role and contributions of both men and women, members of various races, ethnic groups, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender Americans, persons with disabilities, etc. Tall order. I imagine it's going to be a very tall order to satisfy everybody. AUW will continue to support you, the Orinda School Board, as well as those in Moraga, Lafayette, and Adelani's, which we are also participating. The administrators, teachers, the school board, as they protect their districts against censorship in the classroom and school libraries. Thank you very much for your service. Because this meeting, really, we're going to go back on the internet and read what this curriculum is. So thank you all.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Mr. Shannon?
Yes, I'll make this quick. I just wanted to thank you, Geeti Esma, as our Director of Curriculum, for providing a great experience for those of us who piloted the program, all of your multiple visits, and just interacting with us, asking us what we thought of the two programs we piloted. We felt very confident in our recommendation to the board. We feel it's very equitable, and we know that there's a place on there to add things in. We felt it was an equitable program, but we also know that we can build it a little bit more to support an area that we may find that's not as inclusive. So I'm very excited, and we are going to miss you. We appreciate the time that we spent with you. All the teachers want to say best wishes and stay in touch. Thank you for doing this as your final thing. It'll be with us for a long time. So you'll be in our hearts through this program.
Thank you,
For years to come. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this item is on action, so it's someone like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. This is Hillary. I move that we approve Inquire Ed for adoption of social studies K-5 curriculum.
I second.
And because it is a Zoom meeting, we need a roll call vote.
Okay, Trustee Wiener. Aye. Trustee Shogun. Aye. Vice President Collins Coleman. Aye. President Foxy.
Aye.
And Eve is no longer present, so the motion carries.
Great. Thank you very, very much. And thank you for coming. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bringing this to us. A lot of work went into it. Next, we have Resolution 24-24 in support of LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, June 2024, and as has been our tradition, we usually read these resolutions aloud. So Hillary, can we just start at your end? Sure. Thank you.
Whereas public education serves families who represent great diversity, and it is our shared responsibility to ensure that everyone in each of our school communities is valued and respected regardless of gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. And
whereas it is the policy of the Orinda Union School Districts that all persons, including those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, LGBTQ+, have an equal and non-discriminatory opportunity to a quality public education experience. And
whereas education regarding LGBTQIA+ issues increases understanding and cultivates respect and appreciation for LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and the LGBTQIA+ community. And
whereas the mission of the Orinda Union School District is to be a learning community that inspires, engages, and supports all students. And
whereas the district is fully committed to extending a sense of belonging to families in the district, as well as students, teachers, and staff, so everyone is welcomed equally to our campuses. And
whereas LGBTQIA+ youth are at an elevated risk for bullying and violence victimization, mental health problems, suicide, drug and alcohol use, and poor performance in school. And
Whereas the month of June is a time to celebrate and highlight the identities and contributions of the LGBTQIA+ community and foster dialogue to promote healthy, safe, and inclusive school climates and communities for all. And
whereas by recognizing Pride Month, we support the Orinda Union School District policies, practices, and curricula that honor and respect LGBTQIA+ students, staff, families, and the broader community. And
now therefore be it resolved that the Orinda Union School District recognizes the month of June 2024 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month and shall celebrate the LGBTQIA+ community to inspire equity, create alliances, celebrate diversity, and establish a safe environment in our schools and community for all LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and community members.
great. Thank you all. Does anyone have any comments they'd like to make on this resolution?
thank you for bringing this forward. It's very important. I'm glad we're doing this.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And, we're not in school in June,
Right.
but we do feel it's important to acknowledge, celebrate. But we do work on inclusivity and belonging throughout the school year. So we wanted to make sure and bring it as well. So we appreciate you hopefully adopting the resolution.
Great, thank you. And as we discussed at last month's meeting in August at our governance workshop, we will discuss a calendar for
Yes.
these
Yes.
resolutions so that we all know what is coming and we have a matrix for doing it.
Mhm.
I have no public comment cards on this item. And, oh, I do. I'm sorry. I was unclear from the card. So please come speak. That's
We
fine.
could have done it all at once, but, you know.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, that's all right.
Official.
That's okay, Denise, please.
Okay, well, anyway, I
Since
think
8
this
a.m.
will
will
be
be-
very short. Just want to, again, Denise Berea from AEW, and just want to thank you for putting this resolution forward. It is really, really important. I've been to a couple of other board meetings and where there were lots of people in the audience and sharing their stories. And it's important.
Mhm.
We want everybody to feel welcome and safe in our schools, our kids to be safe in our schools. So thank you very much for putting this forward.
Thank you. Laura, did you want to say something else or you? Okay, just checking. Okay, great. Thank you for speaking. So this item is on for action. So would someone like to make a motion?
This is Ed. I move that we approve resolution 2424 in support of LGBTQIA+ Pride Month.
I'll second. This is Hillary.
Great, because it is a teleconference meeting, we have to do a roll call vote.
Yes. Vice President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
Trustee Weiner.
Aye.
Trustee Shogun.
Aye.
President Hoxie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Our next item is board policies. Items listed under the board policy section are typically updates and new policies or administrative regulations that have been recommended by the California School Boards Association. These policies are generally acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There's no discussion of specific policies before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items to be discussed and/or removed from the board policy section. It is understood that the administration recommends approval of all board policies as presented. Each item in the board policy section approved by the board shall be determined to be considered in full and adopted as recommended. Does anyone have any items they'd like to discuss under board policies? No. And I have no public comment for board policies. So would someone like to make a motion?
This is Hillary. I move, approve board policies 9B through D.
This is Ed. Isaac.
Trustee Shogun.
Aye.
Trustee Weiner.
Aye.
Vice President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
President Hoxie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Next, we have communications and announcements. I do not see anyone from CSEA, but Mr. Shannon, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share with us.
I'm Charles Shannon, President of Orinda Education Association. I just want to say on behalf of Pride Month, we're reminded of our work to ensure Orinda schools are welcoming and safe spaces for all students. Students of all backgrounds, sexual orientations, races, and genders deserve to feel safe, supported, and affirmed at school. I never imagined when I was a child that we would have resolutions supporting LGBTQ+ students, and all the laws that we have that support our students. Just to review a few, We have federal law, Title IX, prohibits sexual discrimination and harassment of students in public schools. We have state law. We have the Student Safety and Violence Prevention Act of 2000. It's also Education Code 200-220. It prohibits discrimination against any person on the basis of disability, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nationality, race, ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation in any school program or activity conducted by an educational institution that receives financial assistance from the state. And then under California Education Code 51500, public schools can't provide instruction or sponsor activities that promote or reflect bias or discrimination against any person on the basis of their sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, or gender. In fact, we have the FAIR Act now in California. We've had it since the early 2000s. And we need to have a fair, accurate, inclusive education. This right includes access to materials that speak to the role, contributions, and experiences of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people, both historically and in contemporary society. So in closing, I want to say we need to continue to protect our schools by supporting bills in Congress and actions that fight to end discrimination and support our LGBTQ+ students and all of our students who are not just LGBTQ+ students, but all students deserve a fair, inclusive education that allows for them to be who they are and to do whatever it is they want to do in life. So happy Pride. And again, I'm proud to be in a district that supports all students. And I know this month is very special for LGBTQ+ students. So thank you. Never again thought I'd be in front of school board and directors thanking you for supporting people who have not been supported. I remember when I was a kid, there was absolutely no support at all. And we all hid and were concerned for our own lives. So it just feels really good to be in a district that supports everyone. So thank you. Great work.
Great. Are there any cabinet updates tonight?
I'll just say really quickly, it's first week of summer.
Yes.
Can you feel
Day
it?
of the first
Can you feel it?
Yeah.
But it's a very busy week. Clearly, board meeting, LCAP, budget development, and it's a board prep week as well. Actually, tomorrow we have a full planning day with principals and wellness counselors and myself for review of this year and next year. So that's an all day. And then on Thursday, we have our administrative retreat. And by retreat, it's here in Orinda. So, but it's also a reflection on successes and challenges of this year, with kind of a kickoff to make sure that we have things in order to start the next year because, and also the summer. So, so there's quite a bit going on this week. We've actually had meetings with staff this morning and parent clubs and board meetings. And so on. So we're hoping that people will be able to take some downtime after next week or so, because it has been a very busy end of the year. I will say just really quickly that construction has really kicked off really, really fast. I think there's trucks and workers at every single campus today. And having Elizabeth from Swinnerton at 8 a.m. in our office up here, like, look at what arrived at Sleepy, and it was just 3 major portable modules, and that was by 8 a.m. So I'll just say it. Like,
They're on it.
It
We need to applaud that.
kicked off with a lightning speed.
I'm excited
And that's
by that.
great.
That's awesome.
And I'll just say, I know Carrie and Geeti are kicking off extended school year on Wednesday. So ESY and English learner summer school. So, and Brian's hiring still. So all good. But it's happening. Just it's like a new year started today. So awesome stuff, but it's all good. So
Great. Are there any board updates?
No, I'll just keep it brief. I mean, end of school year, it was really nice as always to attend OIS promotion and just see the growth of these students, a lot of whom I've, watched alongside my children who are now high school, but just always just a nice culmination of their experience here. I don't know. I know it was busy the last couple weeks. I can't, unless I go through my calendar, I don't remember exactly what it was, but excited for summer and just excited for next year and a lot of the goals that we've set and things that are coming. We'll miss Katie and Carrie. So just wanted to thank you both for your time here and your contributions, and really appreciate everything you've done.
Katie, anything? Ditto to that for BT and Carrie, thank you. Similar, and then I got to be at Sleepy Hollow a lot because I had my own fifth grader, and that was really a perfect end, like just the right amount of celebration, I think. And they did a lot of special things for him, I think, at all the campuses they did. So that was the highlight last week.
Thank you, DT and Carrie. Appreciate all the work you've done. And really enjoyed Loya's promotion. That was lovely, and enjoyed my own fifth grader celebrations at Del Rey. But we'll be there with my two. It's going to be rising kindergartner.
Rising kindergarten. That's so great. Well, it has been a busy end of the school year, and it was certainly fun Sunday night. I went to see all the kids at Lowe's with their parents out, because they didn't have school Monday morning, and this afternoon felt like Orinda emptied out. There was no one on the streets. But I know there's still a lot of work to be done over the summer, but appreciate all the work that everybody did to get through this year. Had its challenges, but we're here at this point, and I really do appreciate all the work that went into getting us here. So thank you. I think that's plenty. So we'll move on to the consent calendar. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and are acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There's no discussion of these items before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. It's understood that the administration recommends approval of all items on the consent calendar. Each item on the consent calendar approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. Does anyone have any items they'd like to remove from the consent calendar? And would anyone like to make a motion?
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the consent calendar items.
This is Katie, I second.
Great. We need a roll call.
Vice President Coleman. Aye. Trustee Wiener. Trustee Shogun. Aye. President Hoxie.
Aye.
Motion
Consent
carries.
calendar carries. Great. And then future agenda items are listed.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next
with,
week.
With almost all of these
Same items. but
items.
We're going to vote on them.
Yes, really the only difference is a plan to do a nature area update.
Great.
Are we also doing our board assignments?
Do board assignments for the school and a board meeting calendar. And I'll actually send those out ahead of time so that if there's any input before votes to do that. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we do have drafted it at our last agenda, I would say.
Yep. Great. Then would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Move that we adjourn. This is Hillary.
Great.
Trustee Shogun. Aye. Trustee Wiener. Aye. Vice President Coleman.
Aye.
President Hoxie.
Aye. Great. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.